Welcome to Lawyers Who Care, the video show podcast that highlights attorneys who go above and beyond for their clients. And on each episode, we will meet a new lawyer and they will share stories of when they went beyond legal counsel for the benefit of their client. My name is Andrew Samalin, principal of Samalin Wealth, a nationally recognized wealth management firm for lawyers, their firms, and their clients. And let's applaud lawyers who care and learn from them. Today, my guest is Shaunis Mercer. She's the co-founder and attorney at Peaceful Law. And Shaunis has 20 years of experience practicing family law and estate planning in North Carolina. Welcome, Shaunis.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
So, Shaunis, tell us what brought you to the law.
Yeah, so I come from a small town where there weren't a lot of lawyers that I knew growing up, but I did know that I wanted to help people, and that's always been really important to me. So I pursued different opportunities to get to meet different professionals. And I really wanted to be able to help folks. And so through my college career, I was able to discover the law as a way that I could give back to the community and help folks in my local area. And so I applied to law school. I wasn't, one of those people who had this like grand plan from the beginning. I just knew that I wanted to help. And this was a way that I was going to be able to pursue a path to give back and to help others. And so that's how I ended up in law school, off of the wait list, and really was glad that when I got there, I didn't have expectations or know what it was going to be like. I just went in and found my way to direct representation of actual people, which is probably not exactly what I thought I would be doing when I went in.
For sure. And, of all the niches that one can pick, of all the different practice areas, you came upon family law and then I guess founded a firm called Peaceful Law. There's a lot there. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So, and I came to that path by way that a lot of folks in my neck of the woods do. And that's from doing a general small town practice. I got in with an amazing mentor and attorney early on, and it just sort of narrowed my career path as I've gone along to find family law and estate planning to be a really fulfilling way to help families. And I started out as a litigator, litigating family law cases, and thinking that that's the only way that you could handle those cases, right? These are people that don't like each other very much anymore. They don't want to be together. And so most of the time what we would do is we would file a lawsuit. I found that most cases did end up settling, but I had the initial belief that we had to file a lawsuit in order to get there. And as I grew through my career, I started to see that maybe that's not the best thing for families. Maybe that's not the best way to help folks who are going to be raising children together, that maybe have shared family businesses together, for them to be able to continue those relationships that are necessary down the road, to start with filing a lawsuit and slinging a whole bunch of mud and saying a whole lot of bad things about the other person that maybe we're not setting people up for success. And so through the years, working at other law firms, I started to focus more on amicable ways to help people to get to settlement, and specifically moving away from that hot first step of just filing the lawsuit. So what we started doing is engaging in more civil discourse of seeing if we could keep a case out of court, either through the formal collaborative process of literally sitting down at a table with the attorneys and the parties, or maybe a less formal method of getting to an amicable settlement by having the attorneys to have conversations, do disclosures, and pass some drafts back and forth in order to help couples to get to a resolution, figure out what's going to happen with their family business, what's going to happen with the schedule for the kids, and have a lot more flexibility, allowing families to have a lot more flexibility and say of what's going to happen with their lives versus having a judge to have to make that decision in a couple of days worth of time of getting to know them.
So when you use the term collaborative, do you mean small c, big C?
I love that you know big C and little c. That is 100% of the way that I refer to it as well. So when we say big C collaborative, we're talking about the real deal, the collaborative process where we're engaging neutral professionals to come in and join us at the collaborative table with the attorneys and the parties to have those conversations, to put those numbers up on the wall here in the office and figure it out together at the table. I love formal collaborative. I think that it is a great tool. And I am bringing other attorneys in my area, just pulling them along the way to bring them into doing formal collaborative, because I think it has a lot of benefit for families.
For sure. I mean, it's a 21st century technology for sure.
Right.
For some reason, it does have a very small market share at this point. Although, it would be it's more appropriate than its market share numbers would reflect. What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. I mean, that's the great thing, right? Is that it is completely a modern approach to how we handle things. It allows us to bring in all of the data, and we have facts. We have actual numbers that we can look at together and make decisions. We can engage professionals in the same way that we rely on them in our everyday life. I don't manage my own wealth. I rely on a professional like you to be able to do those things for me, because I'm not the person that's best suited to do that. And yet, as attorneys, a lot of times we're putting our clients in the position of providing answers and making choices about what's going to happen without truly like bringing the professionals to the table and having these open conversations. So I agree with you. Collaborative is a great methodology to get to a resolution, and it suits the way that most of my clients live their lives these days.
And you had mentioned that, you have these means and methods of your practice, and then, how does that manifest itself in the particular case? Do you have an example that you'd like to share with folks?
Yeah, sure. So I think that some cases come in and it's really clear. These folks, they get along, they want to figure this out. It just didn't work. The marriage just wasn't the right fit for these people. And so both of them are engaging collaborative attorneys. We're going to the table with no problem at all. Those are the easy cases, right? Like, we know that those are going to settle, that the people are going to work it out. But occasionally there's a case that comes in that seems a little less suited for collaborative law. So a case where maybe the power dynamic is different, or the circumstances don't necessarily scream, this is collaborative. I still think that most of those cases can get to an amicable settlement. And this is an example, I think, of where that process of really having your client to be thoughtful about what their goals are can take a case that may otherwise end up in litigation and bringing it back to achieving the goals of the client in the most peaceful way possible. And in this case, the parties had already escalated. Unfortunately, they had tried to do things on their own, thinking that they would keep the peace that way, but it actually led to a lot more of like heightened emotions, and had led to a situation to where there was an incident that was inappropriate. It rose to the level of being domestic violence, and that really, that screams like, this is, for me, that screams like, we need to get these parties apart. We need to de-escalate this situation, and then see if we can come back together to figure this out, without with the parties being safe and appropriately safe. And so when I got this call from a client, she was calling me when the police had come out to her home, and it was 10 o'clock at night. And I was exhausted after a really long day of work. My husband is my law partner, so that's another detail to this case. And he saw the office phone ringing, and he answered the call, spoke to her, and said that I would give her a call back immediately. He woke me up, and I did. I called her back, and I talked her through that situation, and we were able to navigate getting her to safety, getting her to a place to where she felt like that she was in control of what those next steps of the process were going to be, what we were going to be able to do to keep her safe in the meantime. And then I reached out to a mediation scheduled the next day already in the case. So I had to reach out to the mediator to let them know that that's not the position that we were in at the moment, that we were going to cancel the mediation. I reached out to the opposing counsel. At this point, it's about midnight, to let them know, sending emails to everybody, sort of what had happened, briefing them on where we were in the case, and letting them know that we were going to take a pause. And so that's what we did. We took a pause at that moment. I worked with the client to find out what it was that she needed, and we were able to still move to get the parties to come to a resolution, to put those safety terms in place. But we addressed it immediately in the moment, what needed to be done. And then we were able to think outside of the box, to have those protections in place to help both parties to get the help that they needed in order to ensure that this child was in a safe environment, in a way that was able to address it much more quickly than the court system would have been able to address this, and also in a way that provided a higher level of safety and control for the family to make sure that the needs were met.
Mm. And it's harrowing, to have the phone ring, and imagine how harrowing it was for the client to have to make that call, at that time. So, there's a lot of heightened emotions there for sure.
And she knew that we would be there. I mean, that's really the level of care that we tried to provide for our clients. They know when to reach out to us in an emergency, and they know that we'll be there in an emergency if that's what needs to happen, to help direct them to the resources they need.
So, Shaunis, before we wrap up, if you could leave our listeners with one takeaway, what would that be?
Well, I think that the important thing is to, as you're moving forward, if you happen to be going through a situation to where you have to employ an attorney, it's really important that you choose an attorney that you feel connected with, that you feel like aligns with your values and goals, and that they understand what it is that you want to achieve, and that they are aligned with that position as you move forward. So choosing somebody who you connect with and that you can communicate with openly is the most important part of moving forward.
Well, again, thank you to our guest, Shaunis Mercer of Peaceful Law. Shaunis, can you provide our audience with your contact information?
Sure, absolutely. You can reach out to me at peacefullaw.com and contact me directly through the website. You can find us on all the social media channels, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. I'm there. And you can Google me and you'll see me pop up in a million different places, giving you the same information and trying to explain to you how to come to a peaceful resolution so that your family can move forward.
Wonderful. And by the way, thank you for that approach. I think the world needs a little bit more peace. So thank you for providing that opening. This has been the Lawyers Who Care video show podcast that highlights attorneys who go above and beyond for their clients. Shaunis is a perfect example of that. If you're an attorney or no one who does go above and beyond, feel free to reach out to us, 914-666-6600. Shaunis, thank you again for joining us today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me.